What's up, Falcons Nation? It's your boy Jew coming at you guys with another edition of What's the Word, Dirty Bird. We do this every Tuesday from 11 a.m. To usually about 12 p.m. Eastern Time. I hope all is going well with you guys. And we have some stuff to unpack today. I do want to talk about in today's live show what's wrong with the Atlanta Falcons. As you guys know, we are on the four-game skid. We started off the season 6-3, and now we've lost four straight games. Now we sit at 6-7 on the season. So, can this Falcons team turn things around? I'll talk about ways that this team can turn things around. I'll talk about what I feel like some of the big issues are, even though we've kind of talked about it during our post game shows and things of that nature. But I still want to give my thoughts on what I feel about this Atlanta Falcons team and moving forward, and do this team still have a chance to make a playoff run and still make the playoffs and win the division? But before I get into any of that, I just want to say what's up to you guys that have already joined me in the chat. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button for your boy. If you haven't already, please hit that thumbs up, hit that like button to continue to get the algorithm going and things of that nature. But I appreciate each and every one of you guys. First in the chat today, I see Floyd Donnelly. He says, "Rise up, get the Raiders," and he also says, "What's good, Jew? What's going on, man? I appreciate you joining." And Tony Hall says, "If we lose to Desmond Ritter and the Raiders, I think we will be the first team in NFL history to go 7-10 4 years in a row." Well, if we lose to Desmond Ritter, that would be poetic justice. Out of all of the crap that the Falcons fans, the media gave Desmond Ritter, if he's the reason that we missed the playoffs, that'll be poetic justice. Do I want to see it happen? No. Do I believe it's going to happen? No. But if it did happen, that would be poetic justice, just based off of how his career ended in Atlanta last season with Arthur Smith and that whole debacle. So if we were to lose to him and he's the reason that we missed the playoffs, that'll probably be one of the funniest things I ever seen. But to be honest with you guys, I don't foresee it happening, but anything can happen. It's any given Sunday, any given Monday, any given Thursday night. Where in the NFL, we know at any point you never know, you know who's gonna come out. That's why you play the games. Never know who's gonna come out on the winning end. And let's see here. What's going on? John St. Clair says, "Good morning, Jew. Good morning. I appreciate you joining me." Sonia Howell, good morning. I appreciate you joining as well. I hope all is going well with you. And Relly says, "What's good, Jew? What's going on? I appreciate you joining me." Strapped Up says, "What's good, Jew? If Kirk doesn't perform well in the first half against the Raiders, he needs to be benched, and Penix should step in for the remainder of the season." At this point, where I stand with this comment, and I've stated this ever since the whole, Kirk Cousins not playing well, Michael Penix situation, where I stand with the whole Michael Penix and Kirk Cousins thing, I would let Kirk Cousins be the quarterback for the remainder of the season, barring injury, or if they want to play Penix, barring the Atlanta Falcons being eliminated from playoff contention. At some point, if the Falcons are eliminated from the playoffs and we still have games to be played, at that point, I would insert Michael Penix. If you're going to play him at some point this season as the starter, and the only reason I would do it at that time is because at that point, there's no pressure for him to win games. You're literally putting him out there just to give him some reps with the first team, to see what he can do and let him get his feet wet. But it won't be any pressure about winning games, making the playoffs. All of that will be off the table at that point, because I don't want to put any pressure on our young rookie quarterback. I don't want to put him in an awkward situation the way that we did Desmond Ritter the year that Marcus Mariota was here, where you inserted him at the time where the Falcons were right in the thick of things as far as playoffs and things of that nature, where you're looking for the young guy to come in and save the day. I don't want to see any hero ball. I don't believe in put this guy in and create a spark. I don't believe in that. The only time I can see a player coming in and making a spark with the team at the quarterback position is if you're going from a young guy to a veteran guy. Now, like I said, if the roles were reversed and Penix started off the year and all of a sudden Penix started to struggle, and then you want to insert Kirk Cousins because he's a veteran guy, who's been around the league, and you're similar to what the Panthers did with Bryce Young. They benched Bryce Young for a couple weeks, let the Red Rifle play a couple games, and then they inserted Bryce Young back into the game where he was able to get his confidence back. But outside of that, I'm not putting Kirk Cousins in this mess, and I don't believe that. I'm not putting Penix in this mess. I think that at this point, you got to ride it out and see where the chips fall. I don't believe bringing in Penix at this point is going to do the Falcons any good if you're trying to win and make the playoffs. And right now, from what was been said from the beginning, this Falcons team is still competing for a playoff spot. And because we're competing for a playoff spot, you don't insert a rookie in this situation. Personally, that's why I personally stand. That's my humble opinion. And Johnson Cliff, I don't think Desmond is starting for the Raiders. Well, they said that Desmond Ridder may start in this game because O'Connell got hurt last game, but they said that he has like a bone bruise. So this depends on how bad the injury is for Aiden O'Connell, the quarterback for the Raiders. If he's injured, then it'll be Desmond Ridder playing for the Raiders. And 6MK, what's going on? 6 men in the chat. 1/3 of the heavy hitters. So y'all make sure y'all go hit that like and subscribe button on his channel as well. I appreciate you joining. And Dre says, what it do, everybody? What the business is, everyone. How y'all doing? What's going on, Dre? I appreciate you joining, man. And Jamaria says, Jew, good morning. Things will go well with me if people hit the like button. I appreciate that. Yeah, everybody hit that like and subscribe button for you, boy. The likes is free. So I appreciate each and every one of you guys just hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button if you enjoy the content. And shouts out to my bro, Mad Mike Sports in the chat. Y'all definitely go and show him some love on his channel as well. I already believe he hit 10K, so he might be on the quest for 15 at this point, 15K. So y'all definitely hit that like and subscribe button on his channel as well. That's another 1/3 of the heavy hitters. And Michael, what's going on with the fire in the chat? He says, Jew, what's going on, man? I appreciate you joining me as well. And Pook says, people calling for Raheem to be fired. Dumb AF, bro. Fire yet another coach, but why are the problems? What if the problems are the same? No pass rush and soft play in the Falcons motto. Time to put pressure on Blank and McKay. At this point, I don't believe that Raheem Morris should be fired. Personally, I think that Raheem Morris have done a solid job for his first year as the head coach. It's just some things that we got to clean up, and I'm gonna talk about that in this live show as far as what's going on with the Falcons and what's wrong with this team. But I agree with you. If you hit the reset button again, you're basically just holding this team back. Every time you fire a coach and try to bring in a new coach, usually it's going to take them a couple years to implement their system, bring in the players they want. So it's like hitting the reset button. So the chances are you just coming right in and winning right off the bat doesn't happen a lot unless you have a team that's built the way that the head coach wants the team to be built. So I think Raheem Morris has done a solid job. He had us in first place for the majority of this season. Now it's just, can we finish? And that's been the problem with the Atlanta Falcons throughout since Dan Quinn was here. Even maybe before that, is can we finish the deal? We get out to a lead, we get out and win games early in the season, and then once you hit the midway point, for whatever reason, our Falcons continue to sputter and lose games and things of that nature. So I think that's an organizational issue. And another Puerto Rico says, good morning, Jew. Common voice while the birds go down in flames. Yeah, most definitely. I think we'll be all right. I think we're going to be all right. I don't think that this Atlanta Falcons team is going to lose out. And the first thing that I'll give you guys to kind of give you guys some hope as far as the fans, you got the Raiders coming up. You got the Giants coming up. And I mentioned this yesterday in the live chat during the Originator show. If you can't beat the Raiders, if you can't beat who are 2-11, if you can't beat the Giants, with which we know that they're a mess, then this team doesn't deserve to make the playoffs. If you can't win these next couple games, I believe we got the Raiders, we got the Giants left, we got the Commanders left, and the Panthers. None of these teams are world beaters. Out of all of these teams, the Commanders are 8-5. They got the best record. But the Panthers have been struggling throughout this year. The Giants have been struggling, and the Raiders have been struggling. So our rosters are better than all three of those teams. So if you can't win at least three of the last four games, you don't deserve to be in the playoffs. And to be honest, I really feel like this team should be able to win the last four games. So you should, definitely be right there in the thick of things. It's going to take the Buccaneers winning out for them to get into the playoffs over us. And they have a couple tough games starting with this Sunday against the Chargers. So you got your chance to get back into the race this week if you win this game against the Raiders on Monday night. And Michael says Ra has to get out of his ego and make adjustments quicker. Waiting 12 weeks to change this scheme is crazy. I completely agree. That's one of the issues that I'm going to talk about in this live show, and I definitely agree with you, Michael. We got to be more self-aware, and I feel like this team. That's one of the things that I talked about early on about what's wrong with this Atlanta Falcons team. And you guys can go back and look at our post-game shows on the Heavy Hitters Live channel, and even look at some of my on my channel when I do some of the recaps. And I said this early on in the season. Early on in the season, I said this Falcons team, yes, we're winning games when our offense was flying high and we were getting turnovers. And I talked about what happens when you don't get turnovers. What happens when you start turning the ball over? And that's, to me, the biggest issue right now with this Atlanta Falcons team is what I've noticed in this 4-game losing streak is the last 5 games, this Atlanta Falcons team on defense, you have one takeaway, where early on in the season, you were taking the ball away at a good rate. Jesse Bates was making crucial interceptions, game-winning interceptions, punching the ball at crucial moments. We were getting everything, the ball was bouncing our way. This second half of the season, when we've lost these last 4 games, we're not getting those same bounces. The ball is not bouncing our way. It's bouncing the other way, where we're throwing interceptions. We're turning the ball over. We're fumbling the football. That's, to me, the biggest thing, the difference that I've noticed with this Atlanta Falcons team right now. Is number one, we're turning the ball over. Number two, we're not taking the ball away. And those are two of the biggest things in the game of football. Is if you lose the turnover battle, 90 to 95% of the time, you're going to lose the game if you come out of the game where the other team won the turnover battle, meaning they got interceptions, they forced fumbles, they got multiple opportunities and cracks at the red zone because of your mistakes and putting them on the short field. I told you guys in this last game, I felt like the games, the momentum shifted when the actual Vikings scored and went up 28-21. And then Ray McLeod fumbled that kickoff. And that put them like on their own 30-yard line. And then they punched it in for another touchdown, which they went up at that point by 14. And I think it was either late third quarter or early fourth quarter. That kind of put the game out of reach because neither team was consistently getting stops. It was like we would score, they would score. We would score, they would score. We were going back and forth. And it was just what team could force a turnover where they could double up, and they were able to do that and still the momentum of that game. Now, is the game all fall on Ray McLeod's shoulders? No, because at this point, Kirk Cousins, as our quarterback, currently isn't playing well. And I know a lot of people think that I'm kind of glossing over that, and I'm not glossing over that. I really feel like the problem right now with Kirk Cousins is he's pressing. And I said that a couple weeks ago before we went on this losing streak. I said because the defense wasn't playing well at the time, Kirk Cousins started to gain bad habits. He started to press. He started to, okay, I'm gonna try to fit a throw in here, fit a throw in there. Early in the season, it was working. He was flying high, but now he's at the point where he's losing confidence. And to be honest with you, who wouldn't lose confidence at this point when you've had a game where you've thrown 4 interceptions? Anybody, I don't care, Tom Brady, I don't care, Peyton Manning, the greats, Steph Curry, if he goes out there and misses 10 threes in a game, goes 1 of 10 in a game, and he does that for consecutive games, he's going to start losing a little bit of confidence. So I really feel like for Kirk Cousins, the main thing that if I were Raheem Morris, if I were Zach Robinson, right now, just like a good shooter, he just needs to see the ball go through the hoop. And right now, I feel like this last 4 games or 3 games where he has like 0 touchdown passes and 9 or 10 or whatever it is, interceptions. I really feel like right now the biggest problem is Kirk has to throw that touchdown and snap that streak. But we also have to get back to the Barney basics. And I really feel like the problem is we're trying to force it on offense with Zach Robinson as far as he's trying to help Kirk Cousins get out of the slump by forcing the pass all the time. And I really feel like we're not self-aware as coaches. We're not being self-aware as players. But the coaching to me is the biggest issue right now is when you get into the red zone. This Falcons team last week, I think we were 2 of 5 in the red zone. That's a problem. You should come away with more touchdowns, and you have to be better than 2 of 5 when you have that many cracks at the red zone and at the end zone. But I feel like the problem was if you look at the drives where we didn't score touchdowns, those were the drives that we decided we were going to try to force the pass instead of doing what worked. The first drive of the game, you literally drive down, get in the red zone. You put Tyler Algier in once you get inside the 10-yard line. He punches the ball in. You just run straight downhill. He scores a touchdown. You get back in the red zone in the next drive and you go away from running downhill. All of a sudden, now we want to toss the ball. All of a sudden, now we want to try to throw the ball. We want to get in the shotgun when you inside of the 10-yard line or inside of the 5-yard line. Where to me, that's where I go back to this team doesn't have an identity. If we embrace that we are a running football team, teams like the Pittsburgh Steelers, teams like even the Philadelphia Eagles, the one reason why the Philadelphia Eagles is a team that's hard to beat, and we've actually beaten the Eagles, is they're a team that usually sticks to their identity. And one thing I can respect about the Philadelphia Eagles is in that game that they lost in week 2 against our Atlanta Falcons, they learned from their mistake. They threw the ball when they had the game iced. All they had to do was run the ball, run the clock out. They decided, well, we're going to try to trick the Falcons. Instead of running the ball or do our tush push, we're going to try to sneak Saquon Barkley out of the backfield, and we're going to try to throw it in the flat. And he ended up dropping the ball, which gave the Falcons the ball back and allowed us to go down, drive, and win that game. And at the end of the game, where we threw the game-winning touchdown to Drake London. So that's what the biggest thing that I'm noticing with this Atlanta Falcons team is as far as about not embracing who we are. When you get down in the red zone, I don't care if you got to run it 3 straight times. It's an identity. They could not stop our run. Minnesota was happy when they seen, oh, they're going to sit back and try to throw the ball into the end zone, especially when I feel like you know that Kirk Cousins right now is struggling. When you see a quarterback that's not seeing the field well and you're in the red zone, the last thing you want to do is say, well, we're going to still try to force a throw here, even though the run is working. I could see if they were stopping and stuffing the run when we got down to the 5-yard line, the 2-yard line. But the run was actually working. But this is why I talk about Zach Robinson has no self-awareness and he doesn't understand complementary football at times. Because it worked the first time, don't go away from it. I feel like a lot of the times when something works, he'll say, well, instead of doing the same thing that we did last time, I'm going to try to do something different and catch them off guard. Instead of saying, let's see if this defense has fixed the issue. The Minnesota Vikings didn't take us off the hook in this last game with throwing the ball deep down the field to Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson. They seen that we were struggling to cover those guys, so they consistently threw the ball deep down the field in that game. They didn't go away from after they scored that first touchdown where he threw it deep down the field to Addison. He didn't all of a sudden, their offensive coordinator didn't all of a sudden say, okay, well, we're going to now try to run the ball with Aaron Jones. They consistently threw the ball to Jefferson. They consistently threw the ball to Addison. And that goes back to what I was stating about our problem right now. Just as the coaching, we're not getting our guys involved that should be involved in the offense. You got guys like Kyle Pitts that you're not drawing up plays for. You got guys in Drake London and Darnell Mooney. When it comes down to key situations like a 3rd and 2 or a 4th and 2, instead of calling your best play and trying to get the ball into your best playmakers' hands, at times we're just drawing up. It almost looks like we're just calling anything. We're calling plays for Ray McCloud, and it's no disrespect to Ray McCloud. He stepped up. He's played well this season. But if this is for a game winning type situation, the last person as far as the wide receivers, he should be the third or fourth option in the depth chart as far as when it comes down to we're finna run this play and we have to have it. This is for the game. I'm not looking for us to be drawing up plays for Ray McLeod. We should be looking for Drake London. We should be looking for Bijan Robinson. We should be looking for Kyle Pitts. We should be looking for Darnell Mooney. Those guys should be in the pecking order. Those guys should be the guys that you're looking to get the ball to when the game is on the line. Ray, like I said, has played well. It's no disrespect to him. I just feel like at times this coaching staff doesn't do stuff that makes sense. They don't stick with what works. They consistently see something that works, and then for whatever reason, we go away from it. Now, one thing I can give this team credit for is on the defensive side of the ball. They seen that they had success against the Chargers with allowing us to play bump and run coverage and things of that nature, and they didn't go away from playing that tight coverage. And we've seen the dividends as far as rushing the passer. For 2 straight weeks now, we've seen that we've been able to get after the passer, but that's because they stuck with what works. And that's what the biggest issue with this team is right now is the inconsistencies and the ups and downs. But I really feel like we're seeing the inconsistencies because we're not sticking to an identity. On offense, from week to week, I don't know what I want to see out of this team. On defense, for the first 12 weeks or the first 10 weeks, we didn't know what we were going to get. We knew we were going to play off coverage, but we were not getting any consistent pass rush. It was like the consistency just hasn't been there with this team. It's been too many ups and downs, ups and downs, ups and downs. And that goes back to coaching. So that's why I consistently say, when I look at this team, they're not far off. And that's another reason why I keep saying, yes, Kirk Cousins isn't playing well, but all it takes is that switch to be flipped, like what he was doing in the first 9 games when we were 6-3, for us to get back to playing good football. This team is not far off. We're playing well. When you put up over 400 yards worth of offense, that's not bad football. Where the issues are coming in is the penalties, the turnovers, the bad play calling in certain situations. Those are the small, intricate details that's holding this team back in this 4-game losing streak. Is the turnovers, the inconsistencies with the play calling, and just not making the proper adjustments and doing the right things at the right moment. Outside of that, this team is talented. This team is showing us week in and week out that they can go toe-to-toe with anybody, but it's just the inconsistent play, the ups and downs, the ebbs and flows. So at the end of the day, I really don't feel like it's panic time for this Atlanta Falcons team. I really feel like it's still right there in the thick of things. And that's why I keep saying, going back to the Michael Penix thing, it's like, why insert Michael Penix in this situation? Because right now, this Falcons team is not far off. It's not like these guys have given up. It's not like these guys have turned against each other. Like, I've seen a lot of different things being said by Kirk Cousins, but just listening to Kirk Cousins just in the press conferences and things of that nature, to me, I don't feel like he's lost any hope. I just think at this point, he's just not confident. And when you go on a 4-game losing streak, it's going to make everybody in that locker room, believe it or not, are having doubts because we're making, mistakes. We're losing games. And when you consistently go on a streak and now there's a pattern that we've lost 4 straight games, all of those guys in the locker room has lost a little bit of that edge that we had. And I feel like a lot of the guys too, at this point, when I mentioned Kirk Cousins was pressing, I feel like a lot of guys now in the locker room are pressing. Guys like who usually don't make the mistakes that they're making, they're now making mistakes. I'm seeing Jesse Bates, leaving the middle of the field and trying to make a play on the ball. I'm seeing Justin Simmons taking bad angles. I'm seeing things that we normally don't see. Ray McLeod, he hasn't been a guy known in this season for being a guy that fumbled, but mistakes are going to happen. And it seems like right now there have been like an avalanche of turnovers, mistakes, and then that's why we're seeing these losses. So I really don't feel like this Falcons team that all hope is lost. I really feel like this team still has a chance to do big things. But if I'm this Falcons team, they got to get back to the basics, the fundamentals, and focusing on just this week. we have to beat the Raiders. Don't look ahead to the Giants. Don't look ahead to the Commanders. Don't look ahead to the Panthers. As I mentioned last week, that all the games, the 5 games left were playoff games. You're 0-1 in this new season where I said it was playoff games. So this week, we got to go 1-0, go to Vegas, a business trip, go out there, get this W, and put some pressure on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to continue to win games. Because what we don't want to do is go out there and lose to the Raiders and give the Buccaneers, that cushion where they get comfortable in, oh man, now they're not right neck and neck right behind us. Because believe it or not, the Buccaneers right now are feeling that pressure as well. They know that they have to finish this season off with a better record than us. Because if we end the season with the same record, we own the tiebreaker, being that we swept the Buccaneers. So at this point, it's just stripping it down, getting back down to the fundamentals. That's what this team has to do if they want to continue to have success and if they want to turn things around. And the stuff about the turnovers and things of that nature with Kirk Cousins, I really feel like that's something that needs to be coached. And Kirk, at this point, he has to take responsibility. He's a veteran, but I really feel like as the coaches, I consistently say this. They need to go back to Kirk Cousins and tell him, we don't need you to win these games. We just need you to manage the game. That's it. Don't turn it over. If you're in a situation where the guy isn't open, take the sack, throw it out of bounds. Don't just throw it up in harm's way or throw it up and try to give your guy a chance when there's so many guys around him. That throw that he made in this last game against the Minnesota Vikings where he tried to force it into Drake London, there was no one open. He just tried to make something happen. Sometimes you got to know when the journey is over. It's nothing on this play available. Live to fight another down. What we can't afford to do is give the other team a short field because we're going to just willy-nilly try to make a play. Sometimes there's no play to be made. Sometimes the play to be made is just fall down, take a sack, throw the ball out of bounds, live to fight another down, punt the ball, give your defense a chance because the defense has been playing pretty well. In this last game against the Minnesota Vikings, they had their struggles as far as giving up explosive plays, but they still played pretty well in that first half. They were getting pressure on Sam Darnold. What killed us in that game was the crucial turnovers at crucial moments. With that being said, I'm going to jump back into the chat and just say what's up to you guys and see what some of your comments, because I know I've been going on my little rant here. Let's see here. And John says, I think Kirk is starting to turn the corner. The pass to Mooney that almost scored was an indicator. Mooney has his second or third read. Most definitely. I think that Kirk is fine. Like, I seen him, all those people that saying Kirk arm is dead. I don't see that. I don't see his arm being dead. He made some plays where he threw the ball down the field without a problem last game. Now, throwing off his back foot, he doesn't have the arm strength to consistently throw the ball off his back foot. But he did some good things in this last game. We're moving the ball between the 20s. We're getting the ball in the red zone. When you get in the red zone 5 times, you had 5 opportunities to score touchdowns. That means that your offense is playing well. We're turning it over. And then when we're getting in the red zone, we're having bad play calling by Zach Robinson, and we're not executing. So some of it is a mixture. Some of it is Kirk Cousins making bad decisions, and then some of it is bad play calling by Zach Robinson, where he's refusing this to run the ball when you get within the 10-yard line, in the 5-yard line. That's when everything's condensed and it's harder to throw the ball. In those situations, why not just run the ball? If you don't get it, kick the field goal. I keep saying points are going to be at a premium. In this game coming up against the Raiders are not a high-flying offense. So in this game coming up, as long as you get points, this is going to be a similar game to the game we played the Chargers, where it was a nip-tuck ball game, where the Chargers weren't scoring a lot of touchdowns because they don't have an explosive offense. The same thing in this game against the Raiders. Outside of Brock Bowers, they're not an explosive offense. So you should be able to win this game if your defense plays solid and if you make your field goals and you take the points when they're there and you don't get greedy and you don't make mistakes. You should easily be able to go in and win this game if you just play sound football. Now, if you come out and you make mistakes, then that's when you lose the game, because that means you're putting the Raiders on a short field. You're giving them ample opportunities to score points against the defense. And that's when we see, what we've seen over this 4-game losing streak, where it's going to rear its ugly head again. And let's see here. And Bucks, Rays, and Boats. He said a couple of different things. He says, let's see here. He says, Wonder Cow Pitts not playing. Let's see here. LA Chargers can't stop the run. Okay. He says Cowboys will give us a hard game. Most definitely. I can see that. And let's see. He says the Falcons will beat the Raiders and Giants, 2 easy wins. Yeah, I don't want to say any game is going to be easy. Let me not say it's going to be easy, but the Falcons should win these games. Like I said, if you can't beat the Raiders, if you can't beat the Giants, you don't deserve to be in the playoffs. Let's just be completely honest. Those are two of the bottom feeder teams in the league right now. If you can't beat them, then you don't deserve to get in. I don't say you got to blow them out. You just got to win. If you can't win these games, we don't deserve to get in. And William Amy says, I don't trust this coaching staff, Jew. Um, with this coaching staff, I think that they're fine. I don't think that this coaching staff is a bad coaching staff, to be honest with you. I think that we just got to do stuff that makes sense. When you see something that works, stick with it. The defense has been playing well. The offense just got to get back on track. And I really feel like if guys just do their 1 of 11, which I talked about last week on the heavy hitter show, stop trying to do somebody else's responsibility. If you guys go and listen to the press conferences from yesterday, they talked to Nate Landman and they talked to Chris Lindstrom. And Chris Lindstrom literally said exactly what I stated. He said, right now, guys are pressing, guys are not doing their job. And when you start trying to do somebody else's job, that's when the mistakes happen because now you kind of overcompensate. Jesse Bates was trying to overcompensate and try to jump a route, which I'm fine with Jesse Bates. To me, he has the leeway to make mistakes, or he has the leeway to try to make plays, because that's what makes Jesse Bates special, is his ability to see stuff before it happens and be a playmaker and try to take the football away. But in Sunday's game, the way that the Minnesota Vikings were throwing the ball down the field, and if you're a single high safety, you cannot afford to leave the middle of the field when you got Addison out there, when you have Justin Jefferson out there. That's called reading the room and understanding. Right now, the most important thing is I'm the last line of defense. I can't just try to go make a play and undercut a route and leave my cornerback out to dry, which he pretty much left D. Alford out to dry, which it wasn't D. Alford's even coverage. When he got spent around and failed, he was looking back like, where is Jesse Bates at? Where is the safety at? Because he was looking like ain't nobody back here. That's why when they're like, why he looked towards the sideline, I think he was literally trying to spot like, where the heck is Jesse Bates at? Or where is anybody even back here? As dumb as it looked. And it did look crazy how he got turned all around. But either way it goes, even if he just sprints after Justin Jefferson, that's a touchdown because Jesse Bates was supposed to be back there, point blank in the period. So he wasn't where he was supposed to be. He left him out to dry. When you try to try to make a play, and sometimes you expose, your responsibility, which is what he did. With him trying to jump a route, he exposed the middle of the field was wide open. That was an easy touchdown. So, like I said, that's again beating yourself. That had nothing to do with it was a bad defensive play call. That was called bad execution. Because if he throws that ball to Justin Jefferson, most likely Jesse Bates is right there in the middle of the field to actually make the interception or make a play on the ball. But because he tried to jump a over route, it left the post wide open. Want nobody streaking down the middle of the field with Justin Jefferson, who's the biggest threat in this situation on the Minnesota Vikings team. And shouts out to Miss Christie. She says, terrific Tuesday. Y'all definitely go check out the Ladybirds tonight. I believe at 8, they go live. So y'all definitely check them out tonight. And let's see here. And William Amy says, I don't know, man. We don't have no identity. We're inconsistent in both sides of the ball. Right. But it's not this Falcons team finding an identity. That's not hard to do. I really feel like later on in the game, Zach Robinson started to understand, oh man, let's just run the football. Because you literally seen us score a touchdown when we tied it up on 21-21. We literally scored a touchdown with Bijan Robinson running downhill. And then they literally went 2-point conversion and they ran the ball again and ran downhill and was able to tie the game. So I think he's starting to pick up on what is working. But like I said, once they went down by 14 points, that kind of took the balance away from the game. And that's another problem that I think that this Atlanta Falcons team has is this Falcons team has to be balanced. You cannot rely strictly on Kirk Cousins throwing the ball. If you tell the opposing team that we're going to throw the football and these are obvious passing situations where we're not going to have any balance, you're going to lose majority of these games because a lot of the teams, especially the Vikings, if you notice, they started blitzing, zero blitzing, bringing pressure right up the middle. And what they know, what they were able to take advantage of or expose with this Atlanta Falcons team is Kirk Cousins is not mobile. So I think a lot of what saved the Vikings in this last game, even though we were bringing pressure, on that play where they scored the deep touchdown down the field, I believe it was to either to Addison or to Jefferson. It should have actually been a sack, but Justin Simmons missed the easy. He had Sam Darnold dead to rights, but Sam Darnold was able to run out the pocket and throw the ball down the field because Simmons didn't make the play. So that's that's the chance or risk you take when you start playing a game. But we're gonna play man to man and we're gonna bring pressure. You expose one-on-one coverage down the field. And I feel like that was the biggest, to me, game changer for the Vikings in this last game of being able to throw the ball downfield. Sam Darnold was good with making the play after the play, meaning the off-script plays where he was able to buy time. Even when he was under pressure, he was able to buy time and throw the ball down the field. So I really feel like with Kirk Cousins in this offense, we can't strictly rely on Kirk Cousins. So we can't afford to get down 14 points, 21 points, 10 points. We got to keep it a nip-tuck ball game so that we don't have to force passing the ball consistently because teams have picked up on Kirk Cousins cannot move. And I really think that that's the biggest advantage if you were to go to a Michael Penix, which I think next year, if Kirk Cousins isn't here next year and they turn to Michael Penix, one benefit of having a Michael Penix is he'll be similar to what we've seen with Sam Darnold in the fact that he's mobile, so he can move. So even if pressure gets there, you blitz him, he still can possibly get out of harm's way and still make a play down the field. Kirk Cousins, at this part of his career, he's no longer able to dip and dodge guys and run away from guys and then throw the ball down the field. If you look at majority of Kirk Cousins snaps, he's always sitting somewhere almost as a sitting duck in the pocket. You rarely see him try to take off and run. So teams are taking advantage of that and saying, since we know that he's not going to take off and run, we're going to just send pressure. We're going to send consistent pressure. So what this Falcons team is going to have to do to negate the pressure and things of that nature in these pressure packages, they're going to have to go up tempo at times, which we've seen on Sunday. So teams can't get into these exotic pressure looks. They're going to have to run a lot more play action, and they're going to have to run the football. That's the way that you negate a team that's blitzing consistently. The only way you're going to be able to negate that is you're going to have to run the ball. You're going to have to leave extra guys in like they've been doing with Bijan Robinson to chip when you know that it's a zero pressure coming. You're going to have to leave guys in the block like Charlie Warner to chip on the edge or chip, in the middle of the defensive line to help the offensive lineman out. But that's going to be the only way that we're going to be able to negate some of the pressure. Because if you see a lot of these passes that Kirk Cousins is throwing, it's a lot of tip balls and things of that nature because teams are able to realize that he can't run. He can't escape the pressure. So that's another issue. And that's why we're seeing a lot of short passes as well. It's not that Kirk can't throw the ball down the field. It's that they know Kirk has to be able to step into his throws. And if you bring pressure right up the A gap, most likely he's not going to be able to step into his throw. So either the ball is going to get tipped, the ball is going to be short, or the ball is not going to be accurate. And I really feel like that was some of the issue with that pass that he tried to throw to Kyle Pitts where it fluttered. The reason that ball fluttered like that is because Kirk Cousins didn't step into the throw. He didn't put no drive on the ball. That ball should have been on Kyle Pitts. That wasn't a ball that needed to flutter in the air. That ball needed to be on him. If he hits Kyle Pitts and he throws that ball like a zinger, he throw that ball hard and put his back foot into it and step forward with it, that would have been a touchdown if he hits Kyle Pitts because it basically was a zero pressure. So if he hits Kyle Pitts, most likely in stride, that's a touchdown most likely. but the ball fluttered because he tried to throw it off his back foot. He didn't step into the throw. He tried to, instead of getting hit, as Mike's been talking about, instead of when they get hit, he tried to just throw it off his back foot, and that's why the ball fluttered. Let's see here. I'm gonna jump back in and see what you guys have said. And Strapped Up says, I don't know, man. I feel like Bowers is about to go off on us. Brock Bowers is going to do his thing. He's going to be able to make plays in this game because he's their focal point of their offense. So you're not going to stop Brock Bowers or lock him down because most of the time he's going to be in the slot. He's going to be in somewhere in the middle of the field. So if we think we're going to come in here and hold him to 0 catches, that's not going to happen because they throw him at least 10 targets a game, if not more. So he's their main weapon on the offense. He's the focal point, similar to like we talked about Kyle Pitts in his first year with the Falcons, where he was mainly the focal point of the passing game. Brock Bowers is the focal point of that Raiders offense. So I don't think that he necessarily is going to kill us in this game, but he has to be the guy that we circling. He's public enemy number 1. And Charles B says, hello, what's going on, man? I appreciate you joining. And let's see. William Amy says, clean house on his coaching staff because Raheem Morris is not honest with himself. Kirk Cousins giving up on himself. Like I said, Kirk Cousins haven't given up. And Raheem Morris, I wouldn't clean house. I don't think that he's a bad coach. I think that they got to make the small adjustments, and this team got to get their swagger back. They got to get their confidence back. When you lose, you go on a losing streak, that means you got to get back down to the basics because the fundamentals and the discipline is not there. We're doing the main things you can't do to win games. Turning the ball over, penalties, bad play calls, all of those different things is a recipe for disaster. This team is going to have to get back to the Barney basics, the fundamentals of the game. Stop beating yourself. Stop turning the ball over, and that's the difference. All of these games have been nip tuck. Outside of the Denver game, this game against Minnesota was a nip tuck ball game. Believe it or not, looking at the score, that game didn't get out of hand until the fourth quarter. So I consider that a nip tuck game. Those 1 or 2 plays I talk about were penalties. Them calling on that field goal, them calling one of our guys for basically, they saying that he tackled somebody on the opposing offensive line or pulled the guys to the ground. They call holding, which I ain't never seen on a dang on kick. That was just crazy. I think it was Contavious Street. They called him for pulling. They said he pulled down 2 offensive linemen when they went to kick. That was a 4-point swing right there in the game. So those are the type of plays that change the game. When you're getting foolish penalties and when they're calling foolish, personally to me, I don't think that was a penalty, but those are the kind of plays that you can't afford to have if you want to be able to win games, especially close games. You can't have they kicked the field goal and got 3 points. Now you got a penalty on 4th down. Give them a whole new set of downs, and then they go down and score a touchdown. You can't have that. Kirk Cousins throwing interceptions. You can't have that. The penalties, you can't have that. Not if you want to consistently win. And John says it right here. Overcoming a losing streak can make you stronger. It creates mental toughness. That's exactly what it does. If they overcome this and they go on a 4-game winning streak, you go into the playoffs with confidence. Right now, this team is just not playing up to their standards. That's all it is. It's simple as that. It's not really rocket science. These guys are just not playing up to their capabilities. They're beating themselves. Right here, Dre the Boxer. I was saying that on game day. Jesse was trying way too hard to jump routes and vacating his assignment. Point blank in the period. Play your assignment. Stop trying to make a play or play somebody else's defense. Because with him doing that, he gave up an explosive touchdown because he was out of position and trying to make a play instead of just staying there and letting the play come to him. It's something to be said about just let the game come to you. Don't force it. Right now, these guys are forcing it. These guys are pressing. At first, it was just Kirk Cousins, but now it seems like it's rubbed off on the rest of the team where all of these guys, instead of doing what they're supposed to do, they're trying to do somebody else's job. And right here, man, Mike says, whether you like it or not, players are losing faith in Kirk Cousins. Can't make these many mistakes without losing hope. Exactly. I completely agree. I think the players still believe in themselves, but I think right now they got to get their swagger and their confidence back. Like I said, when you play bad, you start to lose confidence because these players are human. They're not robots. It's not a video game. This real life. If you mess up at work and you do it consecutively in consecutive days, because these were consecutive games that Kirk Cousins made mistakes, it's gonna start to wear on you mentally. If it ain't a physical thing, mentally it's gonna start to wear on you. You're gonna start second guessing yourself. That's why you're seeing Kirk Cousins double clutching. You're seeing Kirk Cousins do things that he never would normally do. But the reason that's happening is because it's all in your mind. It's a mind game. If you make mistakes long enough, your mind is going to tell you, don't throw it. Don't throw that there. Or instead of when he would just normally pull the trigger on a throw, which we know in the NFL, you can't wait for guys to be open. You got to just throw it and let them run under the ball, or you got to throw it to a spot, anticipate where the guy's going to be. That's where Kirk Cousins is struggling right now. Is he's hesitating. You can't hesitate. You got to just let it go. But I think he'll be fine because he's a veteran guy. Let's see here. And Dre Murphy says, Jew, exactly facts. We did exactly the same thing with DR9. Throw him in the fire to freaking soon, too freaking soon. Don't want to make the same exact mistake with Penix Jr. Exactly. At this point, there's no reason to put Michael Penix in the game at all. And it says, that's what I was saying. Mike, the locker room, coaching staff, and players are in shambles, and we have no clear identity for for motivation to win any more games, man. At this point, like I said, if these guys are that mentally weak where they can't overcome this, then that's going to tell us a lot about this Atlanta Falcons football team. At this point, you're one game out. You got to be mentally tougher than that. You made it to the professionals. You're a professional NFL player. The mistakes that they're making are not big mistakes. They're just the minute. This is why we always say the small, intricate details. That's something Mike always talk about. We always talk about when I say 1 to 2 to 3 plays in the game that'll change the game or lose you the game. These are minute. These are not big things where it's like, oh, they can't overcome this. They can overcome these small mistakes. Throwing an interception, you can overcome that. That's called take a sack, throw it away. Simple as that. If some of the stuff that they're struggling with on offense, Ray fumbling the ball, that's something that you can change. Hold on to the ball, make sound decisions, point blank in the period. They've done it. They were 6-3 at one point, so they've done it already. Don't tell me this team can't do it because we've already watched it. That's why I say I don't want to hear that Kirk Cousins can't come back and revert back to what he was doing. Unless he's injured, which he says he's not injured, and I'm clearly watching the man play every Sunday. He's not limping. I don't see no difference in this game other than he's making bad decisions. That's the only difference I see from Kirk Cousins from 6-3 to 6-7. You're making bad decisions. The guys are not making smart decisions. The difference that I see with Jesse Bates early in the season, he wasn't leaving his responsibility. That's where the problems are coming in. These guys they're reverting to bad habits. It's not that this team is a bad team. It's not that they can't overcome it. It's that they're losing confidence because they're doing what they never done. Early in the season, some of these mistakes that we're making, Kirk Cousins won't throwing the ball up randomly when we were 6-3 in a crowd of defenders. That got to change. That's the problem. Let's see here. And Bucks Rays and Boat says Bucks True Test starts Sunday. Yeah, y'all have the Chargers. The Chargers are not a team that beats themselves a lot. So y'all gonna have a good game on y'all hands. That's no cakewalk. Let's see. And I recently seen that Winfield Jr. got hurt for the Buccaneers as well. Their star safety. So yeah, that's not no cakewalk. And Charles B says time is running out for the Falcons. Falcons must win in Vegas. And Bucks, I think we will lose in LA. Yeah, I definitely think we have a chance. Like I said, if we win against Vegas, to me, we just need to win out, period. Win out and you good. And the games that are left on this schedule are not difficult teams. If we just go out there and don't beat ourselves, we should be able to win these games. We're way more talented than a lot of these teams. And let's see. And Williams says defense needs more big body corner, number two corner, and nickelback. D. Alford is a free agent, and Mike Hughes. Um, I think that the DB2 position, I think that they already have Clark Phillips out there. They may draft another guy, but if I were the Falcons, I would pay D. Alford. I would bring D. Alford back. I think that D. Alford is a good nickel, and he can also play outside at times. But I would bring D. Alford back. They probably going to stick with Clark Phillips because they've been developing him to be the number two guy, and then maybe you draft a guy. But I like what I'm seeing out of our cornerbacks. They didn't play well Sunday, but then again, the Vikings are a really good team. When it comes to like receivers, Justin Jefferson, Addison, those guys make a lot of corners look bad. It's the reason why I think the Vikings are 11-2 or 10-2, whatever their record is. It's the reason why they have that record, and that's because Addison and Jefferson. I told you guys going into the game. That's why I said that they better not play off coverage, which we didn't. But they still went crazy because, like I said, if you blitz, that means you're leaving one-on-one coverage with Addison and Jefferson. And we seen on Sunday, those guys are two of the best wide receivers in the league. Addison on a lot of teams is the number one wide receiver. Great route runner, great at tracking the football. It was times on Sunday where I seen guys draped on him. He still made a catch. I think one play was like pass interference. I think on Mike Hughes, that first pass interference Mike Hughes got, they threw it down the field. Addison still almost caught the ball. The ball literally went through his hands, and that was after him being held. He still almost tracked the ball and made a play. So that just goes to show he's different. That dude is not your average wide receiver. Addison and Jefferson are special. One of the best 1-2 combos in the league. In ATL, Focus says, as long as we don't play down to competition, we should be good. On this stretch. I completely agree. We just got to play our game. Don't play down to the competition. If we play the way that we're capable of playing and we get out of our own way, this Falcons team has a chance to win the remainder of these games because we've been in pretty much every single game. Outside of the Denver game and the Vikings game probably were the two worst games of the season as far as score wise. But to me, the only game that was like out of hand and it was like we didn't even try, we got beat down was the Denver game. Another PR says, how about 100 yards and penalties? There you go. That's the way that you get beat. A whole length of a football field in penalties. That means that you're undisciplined. You're making too many mistakes, too many errors. Some of them were questionable calls again, but you can't put yourself in that situation. And Dre Murphy says right here, you got two of the best running back duos in the league. So why not run the dang ball in the red zone with that two-headed monster in the backfield? Exactly. I said this for weeks and weeks and weeks, and we finally seen it. And that's why I said I think that Zach Robinson is starting to get it. You finally seen him put Tyler Algier and Bijan Robinson in the backfield together. And on majority of those third and shorts, you picked it up because you were able to hand the ball to Tyler Algier or hand it to Bijan Robinson. When you put both of those guys in the backfield, that creates doubt in defenders' minds because they know either one of these guys could get the ball. They could toss it out to Bijan. They can hand it to Bijan with Algier coming down here as a lead blocker. They could hand the ball to Tyler Algier. So that's why I don't understand when you got in the red zone why you went away from that. You literally ran up and down the field with those guys, and then when you get in the red zone, all of a sudden now we in shotgun for what? You're on the 2-yard line or the 5-yard line. Just run downhill. They can't stop you. It's not rocket science. Run right at them until they stop it. You getting? I think Algier was getting 7 yards a clip. This man had 9 carries for 663 yards. Bro, run the ball. And Bucks Rays and Bolt says Ritter versus Dirk versus Kirk. Yeah, that's funny. And Groovy Dong says, hello, Jew, and how are you? Doing great. I hope all is going well with you, man. I appreciate you joining. as well. And Groovy Dawn says, I want Penix to start. I have been watching Penix film slow down to 25 times speed. High gets through his reads incredibly fast, has great anticipation, and throws absolute dots. No, Penix is a beast. I keep saying that. Penix is not the issue. Penix is a problem. I just think that at this point, why throw him in this situation? And does Penix have any chemistry with these guys? Personally, I don't think he does. And I think it sends the wrong message to the locker room. I don't think going to Penix, the other guys around him are going to buy into, okay, yeah, let's go to Penix. I think that they're going to look like the coach, you're panicking. I really feel like Drake London, the guys that were here on this team last year, if you go to Penix, they're going to think about when you try to go to Taylor Heineke. That's the first thing that would go to my mind as a veteran. I don't think that the locker room is going to get behind that decision. I'm just being honest. I don't think that they will get behind it. I think that they're going to think that you're panicking. You're reaching for anything at this point. Instead of just sticking what got us here, now we're turning our back on Kirk. We're turning our back on the team. As Raheem Morris stated yesterday in his press conference, and I agreed with him, Kirk has got us this far. He got us in the first place. I'm going to give him the fair opportunity to try to right the ship. That's the correct thing to be saying right now. Let's see if he can turn it around. If he doesn't, like I said, if he falls flat on his face, then guess what? He'll play his way out of the job. That's how it works. If he don't play well enough to get this team to the playoffs, and that was what their expectations was for bringing Kirk in, he won't be an Atlanta Falcon next year. If that's what the precedence was. But what you can't do is don't even get a man the opportunity, which we did with Desmond Ritter last year. Instead of letting the guy play through, play out of the slump, we said, nah, let's bench him. Let's go ahead and bring Taylor Heineke in here. And when we did that, a lot of guys in the locker room lost confidence. You seen that Taylor Heineke really didn't have any chemistry really with the guys, and it showed out there on the football field. So at this point, like I said, there's no benefit in playing Penix right now. There's no benefit in it. Only benefit you have is, like I said, you're eliminated from the playoffs. Now we have nothing to lose. There's 3 games left or 2 games left. You're playing for nothing at that point, other than just getting him some playing time. All right, I'm all for it. Throw Penix out there. But if it's any type of playoff implications involved, I don't want to see Penix, because once you go to Penix, it's no going back to Kirk Cousins. So do you want to do that right now? I don't think we want to make that decision right now. I haven't seen enough to tell me that that's the right move. And we don't know what Penix is going to do either. Like, I think everybody's just going off of what we've seen him do in college, but we don't know if that's going to translate immediately. Yes, it's the same thing with Bryce Young. We just seen it with Bryce Young with the Panthers. Bryce Young, turn on his college film, he was great at Alabama, but he struggled when he first got to the league, and that's because he didn't have the support around him. Now we seen, after he sat for a little bit, was able to sit behind a veteran, watch the games and things of that nature from the sideline. Now we're seeing that it's paying dividends, because now Bryce Young is playing better. So that's what the same thing what I'm saying with Penix. He's seeing the struggles that Kirk is going through right now. He's being able to watch everything from the sideline, take it in, absorb it. So when he get his opportunity, he'll be ready to go. But I don't want to see us just force him into a bad situation, force him into this situation where the Falcons are playing for something. Because we're still playing for something, don't turn to Penix. Once you're playing for nothing and it's house money, you don't have nothing to lose, then you put Penix out there, because he has no pressure to perform. If he goes out there and fall flat on his face and throw 5 interceptions, if we're eliminated from the playoffs, it doesn't even matter. At that point, you're just playing to put good film out there and something you can look at going into next year. But as long as you're playing for something, don't throw the rookie in that situation. To me, at that point, you're trying to make him the scapegoat. I don't want to see that happen. If Kirk can't turn it around, and if he loses the rest of these games, that'll tell them that Kirk has lost it, that he don't need to be a Falcon next year. So that makes our job easier. And I heard Six Man say this, I think, on their show the other night, where he says, do you think that he's trying to let Kirk play itself out of the job? And I feel like that's the way that it should be. They gave the man $100 million. Let him play his way out of the job. Let him play his way out of the job. Make him prove that he's lost it. Don't abandon ship now. It don't make sense. Go down with the ship. Like I said, if we lose out, lose out. And let's see here. Let me scroll. And Chosen One says part of the Falcons' problem is their penalties keep them from scoring and making first downs. Exactly. Everything goes back to what I've said. When we say the question of the day is what is wrong with the Atlanta Falcons? Turnovers. You're not getting turnovers, penalties, you're being undisciplined. Those are the main things that I'm seeing with this Falcons team and not understanding situations as the coaches. I seen somebody sent me something stating, I think it was earlier in the show when they talked about it took Raheem Morris 10 to 12 weeks to just realize, oh, we just need to press up a little bit to help the defense be able to get more sacks. I've been saying that since week one, week two. Why are you playing 8 yards off the ball? And then we want to say Matthew Judon suck. AK suck. These guys can't get to you can't get to the passer. Well, it's common sense. Of course they can't get to the passer because everybody's doing 3-step drops and just dumping it off in the flat and letting their guys run out the catch. You're not going to get any pressure like that. The only way you're going to get pressure is if you press up, make those guys have to buy time, make the quarterback have to buy time, and eventually that pocket's going to collapse around them. But they weren't even giving the Falcons players opportunities to even really get pressure because we were playing too far off the ball. So that was just common sense. Really, this Falcons team probably would have a lot more than 19 sacks if you would have went to and changed the scheme earlier in the season. But you waited all this time to finally realize that. So it's like it wasn't no magic fairy dust that they poured over these players, and now they figured out how to rush the passer. And Brian People says, "What's up, Jew? What's going on, man?" And Chosen One says, "I'm worried about every game for the rest of the season. I don't have any confidence in the Falcons winning any game the rest of the season." Nah, I think the Falcons will be fine. We just gotta, like I said, get back to the basics. This team is fine. They'll be okay. The problem is they just got to stop making mistakes. Stop playing down the competition and stop turning it over. You turn it over, you'll get beat by anybody. And that's what we're doing. We're giving teams multiple opportunities to beat us. We're gift wrapping turnovers and handing them out for Christmas gifts. Stop turning the ball over. And John says it right here. Looking at Penix as a savior is the wrong mentality. Adjusting and correcting bad habits will win. Period. I literally stated, and I've been saying this for years and years and years. Get an identity and stick to it. The Pittsburgh Steelers haven't had a franchise quarterback since Ben Roethlisberger. Now they got Russell Wilson, but prior to that, they've had probably 10 to 12. They've had numerous quarterbacks over the last 5 to 6 years since Ben Roethlisberger retired, but they're always a relevant team. Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season. There's a reason for that, and that's because they have an identity. They're going to be physical in the trenches. They're going to run the football. They're going to stop the run. They're going to rush the passer. They're going to pressure the quarterback. When it comes to the quarterback position, they've had all type of quarterbacks, backups playing. They had Mitchell Trubisky, they've had Duck Hodges, they've had Mason Rudolph. They literally made the playoffs with Mason Rudolph and a collectible of quarterbacks. The reason that that's happening is because they know what their identity is. So again, Michael Penix is not the savior for this team. I don't care if you place Michael Penix in this situation. If we're saying that the coaching is the problem, Michael Penix is not going to be the difference because Michael Penix is not going to be able to be a player coach on the field as a rookie. It's not going to happen. They're not going to allow Michael Penix to call his own plays. If Kirk Cousins is saying that he can't change plays, which I've heard the rumors that we can't, make adjustments at the line, and he can't, go out there and audible out of plays and things of that nature. If that's truly the case, that Zach Robinson wants you to run whatever play is called, Michael Penix is not going to make a difference. The only difference Michael Penix will possibly make is his athleticism, his ability to run and things of that nature. But Michael Penix hasn't seen all of these different schemes that teams are able to throw at him as like in the NFL. He's played in on the college ranks. It's been a lot of guys that have been good in the college ranks, but he hasn't seen a multitude of these defenses, that these exotic coverages and exotic blitzes and things of that nature. It's going to take him time to get used to that. So I don't want to throw him in right now. And Floyd says, Jew, do you think we got a win in a Sunday? I do. I think well, it's actually Monday, but I do. I think we'll win on Monday because I really don't feel like the Raiders right now. They're for one, I really feel like the Raiders are kind of trying to tank. They want to get a quarterback in this draft. So that's one thing. They already got the mentality that when you 2-11, their mentality right now is we're trying to get the highest draft pick we can get. So the only way the Falcons lose this game is we don't play up to our standards. If the Falcons play Falcon football, if we stop turning the ball over, if we get the ball into our playmakers' hands like Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier, Drake London, Mooney, that should be good enough to win. Just to be honest, they only really have one explosive weapon, and that's why I really didn't even get into the Raiders and Falcons talk because we'll talk about it on the Heavy Hitter show. But really, I feel like at this point, it comes down to what we're going to do. Really don't even come down to the Raiders. Don't come down to what the Raiders are going to do on Monday night. It come down to what Falcons team are we going to see. Are we going to get back to what was working when we were 6-3? Are we going to continue on this slide where we're making bad decisions at the quarterback position? We're making bad coaching decisions in short, in field goal range. We're going for it. We're doing all of these crazy things. That's what's costing this team. Penalties, turnovers, bad play calling. That's the stuff that's holding this team back. Execution. And there you go right here. DirtyBird for license. We had too many penalties against a 10-2 team. We are not good enough to overcome penalties and turnovers. Period. We're not. No team is. Whether they 10-2 or whether they 0-10. If you turn the ball over as many times as we've been turning it over, and then you're not getting any turnovers to try to balance it out, because right now not only are we turning the ball over, but we're not getting turnovers. So that's gonna kill you. That's the reason why the time of possession even been out of whack. The time of possession is out of whack because you're turning the ball over. Other teams are going on long scoring drives, and then the defense is not getting any stops to get the ball back. So that's just a recipe for disaster. And Bucks Rays and Bolt says, no, the Falcons are watching Bucks Sunday. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be checking that game out on Sunday. I'm going to be watching like a hawk because I want to see. Now the pressure is on the Bucks. Right now, the Bucks have been playing with house money the whole time. This season, they've been playing with house money. But now it's time for them to feel a little bit of the pressure because now they are in the lead. So now we're chasing them. So let's see if they can, how they respond to success. Because clearly we didn't do well responding to having that type of success. We kind of went on a downward spiral. We had that big lead and let it slip. And let's see here. And the Dixon way says all that rah-rah talk is starting to wear off. Players want results, good locker room speeches over good locker room speeches. I completely agree. I don't believe in all of that rah-rah talk either. I want to see them go out there and do something. I don't care about, you could be saying all the right things, but what are you doing to change it? And like I said, I'm not trying to save anybody. I'm not making no excuses for Kirk. The mistakes that are being made are unexcusable. I'm not making no excuses for Ray fumbling the ball. I'm not making excuses for nobody. I'm not making excuses for Jesse and all them guys blowing coverages. I'm not making excuses for that. But they're all fixable offenses. This is not something where you in position and the guy that's out jumps you for the ball. Okay, that's one thing. That's out being athletic. But the stuff that you can control, being out schemed, being out hustled, being out smart, those things you can fix. You can fix those things. Making bad decisions at a quarterback, that can be something that can be fixed. That ain't physical. That's all mental, and that's a decision you're making. Those are bad decisions. And let's see here. And Noah says, this ish all politics, man. Raheem got too many connections with Kirk from the past to bench him. I really don't think that he really cares about the past though. And that's why I said when someone mentioned that Kirk had said, like, I want to earn being the starting quarterback. I don't want it given to me. I don't think that Raheem Morris cares necessarily about the past relationship that he has with Kirk Cousins. I think he can care less about that. I think that he really feels that Kirk gives this team the best opportunity to win this season. Period. Like I said, if he don't perform, the way that we'll know if Raheem Morris is just politics is if they decide we lose out, we miss the playoffs, and then they turn around next year and say we're gonna still ride with Kirk Cousins. Then that would tell me, okay, now it's politics involved. But right now, I'm not gonna say it's politics just because he's saying we're gonna ride it out for the rest of the season. That ain't politics. That's called making a sound decision. And Anthony said, "What's good, Jew? What's going on, man? I appreciate you joining me. Hit that like button for your boy. Hit that subscribe button for your boy. And y'all can drop y'all questions if y'all have a few questions, and then I'm getting ready to wrap it up because I've went over an hour already. I'm just scrolling down because there's a lot of comments in here. Let's see here. Let's see. Now I see a lot of comments about Kirk Cousins, so I'm skipping past them. At this point, we beat that dead horse. And Dre says, "Do you get? When do we get back Hitman Helms this year? I don't know. Helms may come back at some point, but I know he was on the injured reserve. I think on IR. They said he could possibly come back late in the season or maybe in the playoffs, but I don't even know if he'll play this year. To be honest with you guys, unless somehow, some way, we're in the playoffs and we make a deep run. I don't know if they'll just insert him because he hasn't played all season. So it goes back to chemistry and things of that nature. Do you want to throw a player out there that's missed pretty much the whole season? I don't know. Unless you're gonna just play him like in a rover position or like a linebacker, hybrid linebacker. But where do you even insert him at this point? Because you're not really seeing Richie Grant play a whole lot because you have Simmons and Bates. So that safety spot is kind of crowded, to be honest, and that secondary is kind of crowded. So I don't even know if they bring Helms back. He mainly would probably be special teams, and maybe you insert him in certain packages, maybe as like a hybrid linebacker. But outside of that, I'm not too sure. And let's see. And Dre says, when do we get Roro back? I think Ruka Roro was well, I think he was he's off the IR now. He was not dressed Sunday though. So I think that was mainly let's work him back in because he literally just came off of IR last week. So he probably will play in this game on Monday night. If they get him some rest, get him back from that ankle. I think he had like an ankle sprain or something like that. So I think he could possibly play this week, depending on if they think that he's completely healthy, depending on how he looks in practice. But if he comes back, I think that that's going to only help the pass rush. And we've seen the pass rush pick up. But if you go look at some film on Ruka Roro in the games that he played early, I believe his first game was that Thursday night game against the Bucks. He was playing really well before he got injured. He's another guy that can push the pocket, but he's also like a guy who can rush the passer from that inside position due to his athleticism. So I could easily see Ruka Rororo being back this week. If not this week, definitely next week. But he'll possibly play this week. Let's see. Right. And John says Penix has not really experienced the NFL defense, especially in a playoff race. He has not had Frankie Louisville or Max Crosby on him. Exactly. It's a different ball game. Them guys are different. It's different from playing in Washington in the Big 12 where the defenses are not that good, and now you're playing against everybody's good. This is the pros, the cream of the crop, the best of the best. And JBM93 says, would you keep Cousins for next year? It depends on how this season pan out, to be honest. And I appreciate the comment. Really depends on how it plays out. If he doesn't play well down this stretch, I don't see Kirk Cousins being here next year because it's going to be too much pressure. You already seen the pressure from the media now with him just having a 4-game, him regressing and things of that nature. So he's not going to make it a whole off season. And if the Falcons don't make the playoffs and he don't show any signs of life that he's back to where he was playing at that high level in the beginning of the season, you're going to have no choice but to move on from him. And personally, I would be good with that. My whole issue is I just don't want to see Penix get put in a bad situation because I know, for one, how most Atlanta Falcons fans are. They're going to turn on him real quick, just like they turned on Desmond Ridder real quick. It's not going to be no long leash for him. So if he comes out and he starts struggling, everybody's going to be saying, let's find another quarterback. That's the first thing we're going to say. As soon as he have one game where he throw 2 interceptions, they're going to say, get him up out of there. Get him up out of Atlanta. He garbage. He a bust. Just like we treat Kyle Pitts like dirt, there's going to be the same thing that's going to happen to Penix. Let him have like 2 or 3 bad games. They're going to be ready for him to, move on from him too. So at the end of the day, patience is the answer that nobody wants to hear. Be patient. Just wait. Penix gonna get his opportunity, and he gonna get his chance to be the number 1 guy. But give him a fair opportunity. If you're gonna give Penix the job, give him a full offseason, give him a full training camp, give him a full preseason, and then let him start from a clean slate, 0-0. Let him start week 1 next year. If you really don't believe in Kirk Cousins at that point, don't throw him into this situation. And William Amy says, I just get bigger. I would get a bigger corner. Clark Phillips is a nickel back. We have to address next year draft. I think Clark Phillips can be a number 2 or outside corner. I don't care that he's small. That don't mean nothing. I've seen guys that was little. Brent Grimes was little. What's your boy? Rondé Barber was little. It's been a lot of guys that was little. And Brian People says, what up, brother Jew? With the 199 super chat, I appreciate you. I'm sorry that took me a while to hit it, but it's been a lot of comments. And here I'm reading. So I appreciate it, man. Let's see. And Groovy Dawn says, look at Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. So I'm assuming that he's talking about they playing well. Yeah, Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston are playing well. And that was my point that I made. I don't know if you were in here early in the show. I said, if you started a rookie quarterback and you're going to a veteran, I'm all for it. I'm not for it to move on from a veteran just to go to a rookie when you're still playing for something. That's my issue. My issue is not with Penix. I think Penix is a good quarterback. I think the problem is this is not the time or the place. As my parents used to always say, there's a time and a place for everything. This ain't the time or the place to throw a rookie in just randomly. I literally had fans on Twitter and stating that we should have played Penix in Minnesota. How much sense does that make? You want to play a rookie quarterback on the road in one of the most hostile places to play against one of the best defensive coordinators in the league, and Brian Flores, that does a lot of exotic blitzes and things of that nature against a 10-2 team. That doesn't make any common sense to me. I'd rather play Penix against the Giants or somebody that's not good. If you're going to play him when it don't matter. Play him the last game of the season against Carolina. That's not in playoff contention right now. That's when you play Penix, when there's nothing on the line. Like week 18, I believe it is, or 17, the last game of the season. At that point, if the Falcons have sewn up the division or the Buccaneers have sewn up the division, I'm all for it. Throw Penix out there if you want to see him, because Kirk ain't coming back next year. Then do what you will. But until then, I'm not throwing Penix out there. And there it is right there. Dre said, I was hoping and praying and wishing that Clark Phillips, the third, was going to be Brent Grimes 2.0. Dang. I think Clark Phillips is a good corner, though. He has a time to develop into something special. I just think that they've been kind of holding him back because they had Mike Hughes and they've been playing the veteran guys. But Clark Phillips is one of the better young corners in the league. So he really to me ain't done anything that put him in the doghouse. And I really don't think he's a nickel. He can play nickel, but he's mainly played outside. If you go look at his college career, Clark Phillips played at Utah. He was strictly an outside corner. He wasn't a guy that they used in the slot a whole lot, unless your number one guy was playing in the slot, and then they would move him, have him travel. But outside of that, in college, if you go look at most of the film on Clark Phillips, he's an outside corner. He's not a nickel. He just plays the nickel with us because we have so many guys. They got Hughes, they got AJ Terrell. So they like to play those guys on the outside because of their length. And I understand it. But Clark Phillips in the last game played a lot of outside corner. And Dre says Big Wills was saying he would like and love to see more two back sets, though, Jew. Yeah, I completely agree. That's where this, I think we will have a lot of success. That's what I would do if I were the Falcons. Breaking news: the Bucks signed Deion Jones. Is that real, or are you trolling? If so, I don't know what happened to Deion Jones. Deion Jones fell off a cliff, man. He was one of my favorite Falcon defenders when he was here, but ever since he had that injury, that shoulder injury, he didn't disappeared. I ain't seen or heard nothing out of Deion Jones. And William Amy says, I think Ritter's going to turn the ball over twice this game. I could see that happening. I mean, we got two two really good safeties and we got really good corners. And Desmond Ritter doesn't have a whole lot of chemistry with the guys there with the Raiders because he hasn't been their consistent starter. So I could definitely see him putting the ball in harm's way in this game. We know that Desmond Ritter, we know what he's capable of. We know that he turns the ball over, but he's also a guy that can make plays with his legs too. So that's something that'll look, I'll be looking at in this game is how they're going to use Desmond Ritter. And Doubt Life says the Falcons need discipline. We can't be jumping routes with good receivers on the field. Period. You can't do it, especially if you're a safety. That's my pet peeve. If you're a safety and your assignment is to be the last line of defense, you cannot just be randomly willy nilly leaving the middle of the field. You're gonna have plays happen like the whole D Alford play where he looking like, who the heck? Where's the safety at? Ain't nobody back here. That's the quickest way to give up an explosive play. Have your safeties leave the middle of the field and come down and jump a route. Let's see. So with that being said, I'm gonna get ready to get up out of here. I'm gonna probably hit like one more question. I'm trying to scroll to see if I haven't hit someone's question that had a question. And there it is right there. Jonathan Bell. Kurt made his bed and we're gonna let him sleep in it. I'm still trusting the process. That's what I'm gonna do as well. I'm not gonna put Penix in this losing streak. No. Let him finish what he started. It's sink or swim at this point. We either gonna sink or swim. We gonna die on that. I'm gonna die on that hill, or I'm gonna live on that hill. Let me say it like that. And let's see. And there it is. Noah, the Falcons have the least turnovers in the league in the past 5 games. Yeah, one turnover. I said that one takeaway. And we didn't gave it away a lot more times than that. We probably tripled our turnovers. We didn't turn it over probably double to triple than what we are taking the ball away. That's a recipe for a disaster. And there you go right there. Dirty Bird Bobby. We're gonna win out. That's why I'm with. I'm still with it. I'm still standing 10 toes down on that. I'm still standing on that type of business. This Falcons team has everything that they need. Look around. I would tell them players, look around in the locker room. We got everything we need. We all we got. We all we need. Now it's time for us to make a decision on what happens with this season. Do we crash and burn or do we rise, as we say, rise up? Do the Falcons rise again? It's your choice. It's these players' choices. They got to make that decision on what happens with this season. Me talking about it, us continuously talking about what this Falcons team can be, what they should be doing. At the end of the day, those 53 men in that locker room and those coaches got to make the decision to turn the season around. It's nothing that we can do or nothing we can say to change the way that they play. It's going to come down to those players. And he said, Jew, what's up? How you feeling? Sorry tapping in late. I'm doing good, man. I appreciate you tapping in with your boy. I'm doing great, man. I'm chilling. And Georgia, Texas boy says, what's good, Jew? AFN family and Falcons family. Doing good, man. I appreciate y'all joining me. But I'm about to get ready to wrap it up. Like I said, pretty much everything that I see in here is all, the rest of it is just talking about Kirk Cousins. I think I've hit every question that you guys have had. Let me see. And Georgia Texas boy says they thought the 9-7 Giants wasn't a Super Bowl team and they won it. Anything can happen. That's the business I'm standing on. And that's the reason why I say you don't make knee-jerk reactions. This team has what it takes. I watched for 9 weeks, sitting at 6-3. This team dominate on offense, get a casual turnovers. We won't even really get no pressure on the quarterback whatsoever. We're at 6-3. Basically beating everybody in the division, swept the Bucks, you know what I'm saying, beat the Eagles. Like, you have what it takes. This team has what it takes. This is the same team that beat those teams. So go back to what worked. Go back to your identity. Go back to that same blueprint. You are playing well then, you can turn it around now. It comes that it's a mentality, it's a mindset. And that's pretty much it. And Dirty Bird says, my concern is Kirk Cousins start playing good against bad competition, and we keep him for next year and run into the same issue with Kirk next year. We are definitely in a pickle. Now, we'll be fine if that happens where he plays well down the stretch. Hopefully, we catch fire and we do something in the playoffs. But he's not going to be able to fool us necessarily. Because what I would say is next year, then I wouldn't be necessarily tied down to Kirk Cousins. How I would play this out is let them finish the season. If we miss the playoffs, I really feel like that's an indicator that it's time to move on. Let Penix go ahead and do his thing and try to trade Kirk Cousins in the offseason. That's what I would do. Now, if they play well down the stretch and they play well in the playoffs, then at that point, they have a decision to make. Do you play Kirk, give him one more shot because you felt like you got close to getting to the Super Bowl? You know, that's where it's going to come in. If you just get to the wild card, I don't think that they necessarily keep Kirk here. If it's just the Bucks somehow lose a couple games and we back into the playoffs, we're still not playing well. You play in the playoff game, you get blown off the field. Like that kind of stuff, I think that they're going to look at common sense. At that point, you move on. I don't think that they're going to still stick with him. But if he plays well down the stretch and he turns it around and you make a deep playoff run and you happen to lose a game in the playoffs, but he played really well, then at that point, you are in a pickle. You got a decision to make. Do I just keep Kirk because he's already under contract? So that's when that's going to come into play. But it's all going to come down to his play. And that's why I said this is like an experiment. You let him play it out because you let him play himself out of a job. If you don't believe in him, he's going to play himself off the field. He's going to play himself out of Atlanta. Just like Arthur Smith coached his way out of Atlanta. I said last year, if he keep making the same mistakes and doing the same stuff over and over again, he going to get fired. And what happened? Eventually, he ended up getting fired because he didn't make the proper adjustments. So it's going to be the same thing here with Kirk Cousins. If Kirk doesn't turn it around, he's going to make the decision easy for this coaching staff and the Falcons to say, we're going to either cut bait like the Denver Broncos did with Russell Wilson, where they just cut bait, or somebody's going to want to trade for him and we'll trade him, trade him to another team. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. It is what it is. We're where we're at. We're 6-7. As somebody once said, you are what your record says you are. So right now, the Falcons are just a mediocre team. You're one game under 500. You're mediocre. Now it's up to this team to decide what they're going to do moving forward. So with that being said, I'll holler at you guys in the next live stream. You guys stay tuned because I will be dropping content, this week for you guys. Stay tuned tomorrow for the heavy hitters live. Tonight, tune into the Ladybirds of AFN. Y'all guys, they'll go live at 8. So y'all check the ladies out tonight. But with that being said, I'll holler at you guys. As always, Falcons Nation, rise up, be blessed. Peace.